My best friend got into a car accident and was hospitalized, so she asked me to go to her place to grab a few changes of clothes for her. As soon as I stepped into the house, her brother mistook me for a perverted thief and nearly choked me to death with a headlock. I was furious. Swears were already on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them all back the moment I turned around and saw him. First, because his face was incredibly handsome, and second, because he wasn't wearing any outer clothes or pants. He also has abs and long legs. He exudes masculine energy from head to toe, with every strand of hair perfectly matching my aesthetic preferences. My face flushed red, and though I wanted to avert my gaze, my eyes seemed to lose control, constantly darting toward a certain direction. My best friend's brother remained utterly composed, leisurely pulling clothes and pants from the cabinet to put on before asking me, "Are you here to grab clothes for Jenny? What happened to her?" "Car accident, hospitalized." His brows furrowed, and I thought he'd panic, but instead, he said, "She didn't call me, must not be serious, and it's probably her fault anyway." "You guessed it so accurately." He then asked me, "How did you get here?" "By cab." "Then I'll take you back to the hospital and, by the way, see my sister." "By the way? Is the bond between you two that weak?" As it turns out, by the way wasn't just an offhand remark. My best friend's brother really just took one look, confirmed she wasn't seriously hurt, and then left. It pissed her off so much. "I'm going to call my parents and tell them that jerk Blake bullied me again." Out of that whole string of words, the only thing I heard was her brother's name, and I quickly asked, "How do you spell your brother's name?" My friend answered without thinking, only to realize afterward, "Wait, you're not interested in my brother, are you? Her brother is so handsome, and he was just driving that big G with one hand, how could I not be interested?" On the way to the hospital, I was already thinking of making a move, but her brother was either on a call or texting the whole time. I didn't even get a chance to talk to him. "Your brother doesn't have a girlfriend, right?" My best friend said, "No girlfriend, but he's like an iron tree that never blooms, don't waste your effort." "How would I know without trying?" "Maybe I can make an iron tree bloom?" My best friend didn't believe me and even made a bet with me. If she loses, she'll perform handstand hair washing. Such a fierce wager made me a little worried. I might end up groveling for 3 years. The first time I asked Blake out for dinner, it failed. He said he had to work overtime on the weekend. The second dinner invitation also failed. He said he had to meet a client in the evening. The third time I tried to ask him out for a movie, my best friend bluntly poured cold water on it. He'd just fall asleep in the cinema. I was disappointed for a while, then decided to face the truth. Either your brother is truly a cold fish, or he just has zero interest in me. Otherwise, even a pig should have realized by now that a girl being this proactive definitely means she's interested in him. But my best friend replied, "Not necessarily. If he really had zero interest, my brother would have outright rejected you." "Maybe because we're friends?" "Come on, he never does things out of consideration for me." "Oh, then I'll try again." My best friend not only encouraged me to try again but also gave me some tips. "If he says he's working overtime, then you say let's grab a late-night snack after. If he says he has a client meeting, then you ask him if he'd like to see you after meeting the client. As for watching movies, let's not even go there. Last time my whole family went, he slept through the entire thing." Actually, I know all the tricks my best friend mentioned. She probably forgot, but it was me who taught her how to flirt with men. If it were anyone else, I would have already unleashed my full repertoire of 365 flirting techniques. But Blake is her brother, which makes him an acquaintance. I was afraid of going too far. What if things didn't work out? It would have been both embarrassing and awkward. But now that she said all this, I have no reservations left. Time to go all out. The fourth time, I invited Blake to a hot spring together. He asked, "How many people?" "Just you and me." The other end of the line fell silent for a moment. I thought he was going to reject me again and had already prepared my next line. But he responded decisively, "Okay." I thought I had made my intentions quite clear, any adult would understand. Yet, in the hot spring pool, Blake stayed more than a meter away from me, so far that I couldn't even reach him if I tried. And he kept taking phone calls, endlessly talking about work. I shifted closer to him and deliberately brushed my toe against his calf. He glanced at me, no surprise, no irritation. My gut told me this guy might be on a different level, but now that things had come to this, I had to throw the first flirtatious punch. My toes grew bolder, tracing a path up his leg from his calf. After passing his knee, he leaned slightly forward, gripping the back of my thigh and pulling me toward him. The hot spring rippled in endless circles as I tumbled into his arms. "Don't touch recklessly," he warned in a low voice by my ear. "TSK, playing hard to get with me?" I kissed him directly. During the kiss, I became even more convinced that Blake's level is definitely higher than mine. His kissing skills were just too good, making me crave more. But at that moment, my phone started ringing. I pretended not to hear it. Blake, however, gripped my shoulders, gently pushed me away a little, and nodded toward my phone. "You've got a call." Not answering. He glanced at the note on the screen. "Your mom is calling." I was just mentally cursing, wondering who the hell would interrupt such a good moment. It turned out to be my own mother. I had no choice but to let go of Blake, turn around, and pick up my phone, my voice full of resentment. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Coco, come back quickly. Your dad has been hospitalized." "What's going on?" "Fell from the balcony while chasing a thief." My mind buzzed violently, as if something had exploded inside it. If not for Blake's quick reflexes, my phone would have slipped straight into the water. He guided me toward the shore, his voice steady. "Don't panic, I'm taking you to the hospital now." In the changing room, my hands were trembling so much I couldn't fasten my bra properly. Since I'd come with ulterior motives, I'd specifically booked a couple's changing room. Blake was right next door. He probably guessed my situation. After changing his clothes, he tapped on the partition and asked, "Can you manage on your own?" "I can't, my hands and feet are weak." "But I can't, could he possibly come over and help me put it on?" And he actually did. Blake always remains unnervingly composed in the most embarrassing situations. Facing my disheveled state, his gaze burns with raw desire, radiating an overwhelming sense of aggression. His gaze roamed over me inch by inch from head to toe, making me feel as if I'd been petrified, unable to move. Yet the movements of his hands were swift and decisive, quickly helping me get dressed. From the hot spring to the hospital, a 20-minute journey took him only 15 minutes. As the car came to a stop, we each stepped out from our respective sides. Tall and long-legged, he outpaced me in just a few strides. An uninformed observer might have thought it was his father in crisis, not mine. I was about to jog to catch up when Blake stopped, turned back, and even stretched out his hand toward me. Had he shown this kind of considerate initiative half an hour earlier, I would have been over the moon. Now I just feel like he's pitying me. Maybe he even secretly thinks I'm a spineless loser who falls apart at the slightest trouble? But it doesn't matter, falling in love always begins with a spark of pity. Hand in hand, we walked toward the hospital room. It might be downright blasphemous to think about romance at a time like this, but I'm convinced my dear father would understand me. 5 minutes later, never mind, forget understanding. I thought falling off a balcony would be serious business, either death or ICU at the very least. Turns out, it was the first-floor balcony. While helping the neighbor catch a thief, my dad couldn't resist showing off, only to slip and faceplant right into the lawn. He did get injured, a tiny cut on his head from a pebble, the kind that would have healed on its own if he'd gotten to the hospital any later. My mom, utterly mortified, rubbed her hands and chuckled awkwardly, explaining to me, the property manager wasn't clear on the phone, and the whole neighbor family was out there, so I had to call you. I had to schedule 4 dates with Blake to finally get this perfect opportunity, and now my own parents ruined it. Silence is the Cambridge Bridge tonight. Perhaps it was too embarrassing, or perhaps too bitter. On the way home from the hospital, I leaned my head against the car window, emanating the aura of I'm the tragic female lead from head to toe. My best friend kept asking me how far things had gone. Aside from the following 6 dots, I had nothing to say. After Blake dropped me off at home, he reminded me to take a proper shower. In my earlier haste, I had only rinsed off casually and hadn't gotten clean at all. I looked at him gloomily, wanting to say something but deciding silence was more appropriate. Some moments, once broken, can never be recaptured without feeling forced. I nodded, stepped out of his car, and disappeared into the night without a backward glance. 2 days later, my best friend was discharged from the hospital and called me to pick her up. I asked, "What about your brother? Why didn't you ask him to come get you?" "He's on a business trip." My best friend immediately sensed my disappointment and asked with concern, "What's wrong? Did my brother reject you?" "No, but it's close to that." She had already taken the initiative to kiss him that day. If he had any feelings for her, he wouldn't have gone completely silent afterward. I had to admit, 1,000-year-old iron tree was indeed more stubborn than her own hard head. "I can't flirt with your brother anymore, I give up." "No way, I've even been practicing handstand hair washing these past few days." "How can you give up now?" Never seen anyone so eager to perform a handstand while washing their hair. My best friend then said, "Wait, I'll go investigate for you." Before I could reply, the call ended. I figured there wouldn't be any twists or turns in this matter. The reason Blake went to the hot springs with me and even kissed me that day was probably just because he thought, why pass up free advantages that come my way? However, 2 minutes later, my best friend sent me a screenshot of her chat with her brother. Her best friend asked him, "What exactly are your intentions toward my friend?" Blake replied with a question mark. Her best friend said, "If you don't like her, just say so directly. Don't keep her hanging." Blake replied, "Am I that kind of person in your eyes?" Best friend, "Definitely not a good guy." Blake replied, "I'm not stringing her along." Best friend asked, "Then what exactly do you mean?" After that, Blake didn't reply. My best friend said that her brother's meaning was already very clear, he's interested in me too. The iron tree of 1,000 years is interesting indeed, so different from others. I decided to engage him in another round. If I still couldn't win him over this time, then I'd bow out respectfully. On the day Blake returned from his business trip, my close friend promptly notified me. Without delay, I texted Blake, "You took me to the hospital to see my dad last time, and I haven't thanked you yet. Let me treat you to dinner." Blake replied, "Sure." I was just about to send him the restaurant location when he added, "Wanna come to my place for dinner?" "What? I don't know how to cook." Blake said, "I'm exhausted from the business trip and want to take a nap first. You can go to the supermarket to get the ingredients, and I'll cook when I wake up." I really wanted to remind him, I'm the one treating him, yet going to his place and having him cook is highly inappropriate. But the temptation was too great. Even if it's not proper, I'll just play dumb. Soon after, I received the home address Blake sent me, which was different from the place I went to fetch clothes for my best friend last time. I immediately forwarded it to my best friend and asked where it was. My best friend said, "That's my brother's own place outside." How did you know about it? How I knew no longer mattered, all I wanted was to rush to the supermarket to buy ingredients and then hurry over there immediately. While shopping for groceries, Blake sent me the door code to his place. He said he was worried he might sleep too deeply later and not hear me ring the doorbell. What does that imply? Even a fool could guess what that means. I randomly bought a bunch of stuff and rushed straight to his place. As he had said, he was indeed in a deep sleep, the noise of me entering didn't wake him at all. I set the things down and tiptoed into his bedroom. Inside, a dim, yellowish wall lamp was on, casting an ambiguous atmosphere. Blake lay quietly asleep on the bed. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and his powerful arms were exposed, along with a glimpse of his chest muscles. The sight was way too tempting, and I swallowed hard, somewhat shamefully. Taking advantage of someone while they're asleep seems a little unfair, right? Besides, as a girl, I do have quite a strong sense of shame. After hesitating for 2 seconds, I was about to step back. But at that moment, Blake suddenly opened his eyes, his sharp gaze instantly pinning me in place. I bought the groceries. I scrambled for something to say. He nodded, glanced at the penguin alarm clock on the nightstand, then said, "It's still early. Take a nap with me first." "What? A nap together?" As soon as he finished speaking, he got up, grabbed my wrist, and with a single forceful tug, pulled me onto the bed. I turned into a body pillow, completely encircled in Blake's arms. Just like the first time we met, he was wearing nothing but a pair of underwear. Surrounded by male hormones, I groggily pondered a question: doesn't this count as misconduct? To not be at a disadvantage, I had to reciprocate with some misconduct of my own. After fumbling around for a while and accidentally brushing against areas I shouldn't have, Blake let out a soft chuckle by my ear. My face instantly turned crimson as I glared up at him. "What are you laughing at?" "Laughing at your impatience. You're the one who pulled me into bed first. Then you should at least give me some time to catch some sleep first." After a pause, he deliberately rubbed his stubble against my temple and added, "Let me show you what I'm made of after dinner, guaranteed to satisfy." He really knew what I was thinking. But who gave him the right to believe that after toying with me again and again, I'd still obediently follow his lead? I pushed him away abruptly. "Sorry, I'm no longer interested." Blake was momentarily stunned, then sat up with me. Ignoring him, I quickly got out of bed and headed for the door. But with his long legs, he caught up and blocked me at the exit. I stared at him warily. "What, are you planning to force yourself on me now?" He looked somewhat irritated, glanced left and right, then said, "The groceries are all bought, have a meal before you go." "No." "Then let's eat out." After saying that, he went back inside to get dressed, leaving me standing there stunned. Truth be told, I just wanted him to experience the taste of hot and cold, since he's the one who's so bad. By the time he finished getting dressed and came out, I added, "I'm tired of eating out. Don't want to go." Without a moment's hesitation, he turned and walked into the kitchen. I followed close behind, leaning against the doorframe as I watched him wash vegetables and cook. Watching a handsome man work is always a pleasure, no matter what he's doing. By the time the 3 dishes and 1 soup were ready, I had completely forgotten how many times he had teased me. Halfway through the meal, I even asked him, "Can I still come over for free meals later?" Blake said, "I rarely cook." The light in my eyes instantly dimmed. He added meaningfully, "If you want to eat, I can reluctantly cook a few more times." Is it really forced? Why do I get the vibe of a boyfriend doting on his girlfriend? Surely I'm not reading too much into it? After dinner, Blake suggested taking out the trash and asked if I wanted to join for a post-meal walk to aid digestion. I figured my brain, full of filthy thoughts, definitely needed some clearing out too. But we had just started our walk and hadn't even held hands yet when his parents appeared. "Coco? Why are you with Blake?" Faced with the puzzled looks from Blake's parents, I suppressed a laugh and quickly racked my brain for an excuse. After thinking for a while and not coming up with anything suitable, I simply turned to Blake and passed the hot potato to him. Blake said, "Your wonderful daughter was worried I'd end up alone forever, so she introduced me to her bestie. They just hadn't seen their son in a long time and wanted to take a look. They never expected their son to suddenly have a girlfriend, and their future daughter-in-law was actually someone they knew." Blake's parents exchanged a glance, then quickly made their exit. Blake offered to walk me home, but I refused. I asked him, "What did you mean by what you said to your parents earlier?" Blake replied, "Didn't you say you wanted this 1,000-year-old iron tree to finally bloom?" I really fell for Jenny's nonsense. She threw her chat logs with Blake at me while also telling him what I said to her, playing the good guy on both sides. I decided to throw caution to the wind. "Yeah, I said it." "So what?" "Nothing much," Blake replied coolly. I was so annoyed. He knows exactly what's going on in my head, but I have no clue what he's thinking. Once again, I lost this round completely. I'm gonna say goodbye to him. The next one will be even better. But Blake grabbed me and, pulling a wildflower out of nowhere, put it on his own head. He asked me, "Does this count as an iron tree blooming?" By the time I snapped out of it, I was already under the same blanket with him, pressed tightly together. He performed exceptionally well. I was thoroughly satisfied. Just a bit exhausted, the kind of aching, full-bodied fatigue you can't help but revel in. Blake. Do you know, I was initially drawn to you because of your looks. I took one look at this guy's physique and immediately wanted to get close to him, like, really close. After a long pause, Blake finally replied in a soft voice, I know. I was exhausted, barely able to stay awake, and my words came out slurred. Even with a straight hook, you still took the bait, huh? I think he said something in response, but I didn't catch it. But it's enough to know that this iron tree of his has finally bloomed, for me. When I showed up holding Blake's hand in front of my best friend, she immediately started calling me sister-in-law repeatedly. I was overjoyed and couldn't even bother to hold her accountable for the upside-down hair-washing bet. His parents have always liked me a lot, eagerly wishing I could marry into their family right away. But my parents don't like Blake. I was stunned. How could they not like such a handsome and wealthy son-in-law? Aside from the fact that I was the one who pursued Blake first, making them feel he doesn't love me enough, my mom even said, he's too handsome and too rich. We're afraid you won't be able to handle him, and the likelihood of divorce in the future is very high. I faithfully relayed my parents' words to Blake, and he seemed quite troubled. The company's growth momentum is strong with no signs of bankruptcy for now. As for my face, I can't exactly deliberately make it uglier, right? I nearly laughed myself breathless, hugging him while showering him with kisses. So what do you suggest we do? Let me meet your parents first. Even if they're going to sentence me to death, they should at least give me a chance to prove myself, don't you think? How about today? Blake asked, have you already talked to your parents? No, let's just go and ask for forgiveness later. Blake didn't go along with my recklessness. He picked a date, informed my parents in advance, then brought a pile of gifts and made a formal visit. Just as the atmosphere became extremely serious, my best friend called me. I was originally worried about leaving Blake alone to face my parents, but he seemed confident, so I went back to my room to take the call. When I came out, the serious expressions on my parents' faces had completely vanished. They were grinning from ear to ear. Does Blake know magic? I only took a phone call, and somehow he managed to win my parents over? After dinner, I quickly pulled Blake outside and asked him, what did you do to my parents? Blake found himself torn between laughter and tears. What could I possibly do to my future in-laws? Of course, I'd try to win them over. Like how? By showing them how devoted I am to you. How exactly did you show them? Blake refused to tell me, no matter how much I wheedled or got angry. It wasn't until later, when I accidentally saw a screenshot of their sibling chat in my best friend's phone gallery. Blake said, I've taken a liking to your friend. My best friend replied, you know the drill. A transfer of 100,000. Instantly accepted. My best friend said, Coco likes guys with a good figure. I'll find a chance for the two of you to meet alone, don't wear any clothes. Blake replied, would you think I'm a pervert? My job is just to create the opportunity, my best friend said. The rest is up to you. So, it was the two siblings who dug a pit, and I jumped in gleefully? I created a group chat with the three of us, posted the screenshots, and then said nothing. My best friend and Blake both fell silent. See? That's the kind of unspoken understanding you get with real siblings. I didn't block them, and I let them explain however they wanted, but I didn't reply. At the same time, a colleague at the company also started pursuing me passionately. On the day Blake came to the office, it just so happened that my coworker sent me 99 roses. Abandoning his usual calm demeanor, he strode over to me in a few quick steps, wrapping an arm around my shoulder to declare his sovereignty to my colleagues, I'm Coco's boyfriend. My colleague was embarrassed. Because the first time he confessed his feelings to me, I told him I already had a boyfriend. He didn't believe me and insisted I was just testing him. Today, Blake showed up and completely outshined him in both hard and soft skills, leaving his colleague utterly disheartened. In the G class, I asked Blake with a stern face, "What are you doing here?" Blake said, "Looking for you." I scoffed, "The prey has fallen into the trap, you must feel quite accomplished, huh?" "Coco," he suddenly called my name very seriously, then enunciated each word clearly, "I've never thought of you as my prey. You're someone I like." "I can't tell," I rolled my eyes at him. "You're hot and cold, pushing and pulling, you call that liking someone? Since when have I been hot and cold? You keep turning down my dinner invites but jump at the chance for a hot spring state. If that's not hot and cold, you must be a 24K pure horn dog." Blake's lips twitched. He wanted to explain but seemed at a loss for where to start. His sister had warned him before he came, women aren't reasonable when they're angry. If you try to reason with her, you're doomed. Blake didn't want to die, so he didn't reason with me, he used his charm on me instead. If I'm guilty, punish me by law, not by having this man seduce me over and over with his body. And what's worse, I actually fell for it. Afterward, to save face, I pouted with my swollen lips and deliberately snarled, "Don't forget, I fell for you because of your looks in the first place." Blake said, I'm honored." To vent the anger in my heart, I refused to give Blake a single warm look in the days that followed. Probably provoked by my colleagues, he sent me flowers every day. The female colleague at the neighboring workstation couldn't hide her envy. "Coco, your boyfriend is not only handsome and rich but also treats you so well. I'm so jealous." My boyfriend is also a master at playing people. But of course, I only keep these thoughts to myself, outwardly basking in their admiration with a smile. 2 weeks later, Blake asked, "Still not ready to forgive me?" I guess he's fed up. After all, he has a busy job and still makes time to pick me up from work every day, yet I refuse to give him a kind look. Anyone would find it unbearable to keep offering warmth only to be met with cold indifference for so long. Thinking about it carefully, he hasn't really done anything unforgivable. It's just that I couldn't resist temptation, and with my lack of experience, I let him have the upper hand from the very beginning. Anyway, now that I've got him under my thumb, I think it's only fair to give him a little reward. Unexpectedly, before I could even speak, he sighed deeply and said gloomily, "Then I'll keep trying harder. Just let me know when you forgive me." I couldn't help but laugh. Blake looked at me and cautiously reached out his hand. When I didn't retreat, he finally relaxed, embracing me tightly. I teased him, "At the very beginning, you weren't worried at all that I might run away." "Wasn't worried?" He pulled out his phone and showed me the entire chat log between him and my best friend. Every time I wanted to back out, he sent money to my best friend, telling her to keep me from wavering. "I can't believe it, if you had confessed your feelings for me earlier, we might already have a child by now." He later told me that he had actually seen me way back when I first became friends with Jenny. One day when he went to pick Jenny up, he noticed me, walking with such lively energy, every smile and glance radiantly captivating. Later, he heard many things about me from Jenny and became deeply curious. When he found out I didn't have a boyfriend, he started plotting to make me his own. I was too pleased. If I had a tail, it would surely be wagging happily right now. I asked him, "Do I not need to do anything, just stand there and crook my finger, and you'll become my devoted follower?" OMG. Who wouldn't love a man who's so straightforward? I don't care anymore, I want kisses, hugs, and to be lifted high right now. After turning the tables and taking the lead, every day of mine is filled with sweet bubbles. Apart from being a bit busy with work, Blake is practically the perfect, dutiful boyfriend in every other way. But I still really want to know what exactly he said that day when I went to take the phone call, which made my parents do a complete 180-degree turnaround in their attitude. The so-called pledge of loyalty must have been him fooling me. My parents aren't idiots, why would they believe whatever he says? It wasn't until Blake showed me a document, no, to be precise, a prenuptial agreement. Written in black and white, it stated that his assets, whether acquired before or after marriage, would be shared with me. If he wasn't deeply, deeply in love with someone, he wouldn't come forward with something like this. So my parents were convinced on the spot. And so was I. I'm so grateful that there's someone in this world who loves me as much as he loves himself. But what have I done to deserve half his wealth? Being too greedy will bring divine retribution. Right now, Blake is completely devoted to me, thinking nothing of sharing his assets. But what would his parents think of me if they knew about this? I didn't sign that document, and Blake didn't pressure me either. The very next day, my best friend rushed over, urging me to sign as soon as possible so I wouldn't miss this chance to get rich quick. Don't you know how much money my brother has? It's definitely not just spare change. If you sign, you won't lose out. I looked at her, amused. You may be my best friend, but he's your own brother. My best friend said, if you think it's too much, you can split it with me after you get the money. Of course, she was just joking. Then my best friend also told me that her brother had actually had a crush on me for a very, very long time. She had been looking for opportunities to introduce us and even tested my reaction before. But what I said back then was, I don't want someone who doesn't have time for me. If we're dating, there better be time for sweet, mushy moments. At that time, Blake's company was just starting up, and he was too busy to even think about dating. Honestly, he's still very busy now, but he dedicates all his free time to me. My bestie said, you have no idea how hard it's been for me to hold it in and act in front of you. I feel like Oscar owes me a little golden statuette. Let's set aside the golden statuette for now. Looking dead serious, I asked my bestie, about this handstand hair washing stunt, are you doing it, or is your brother? My bestie pretended to play dumb in fright. What did you say? The wind's too loud, I can't hear you. It's fine if you run away. Your brother won't get away that easily. Blake was working overtime in the evening, and since I was bored, I quietly went to his company. Life experience tells us that you don't have to check up on your partner, but you shouldn't suddenly check up on them either. And sure enough, I caught Blake alone with a beautiful woman late at night. What's more, the woman seemed unaware of my relationship with Blake and asked in a sweet but fake tone, Blake, is this your secretary? How come she's so clueless and barges in without knocking? Since when do secretaries show up for work in loungewear? Blake wanted to explain, but I stopped him with a look. Then, following the lady's train of thought, I began role-playing. President, all today's work has been completed. May I leave now? The beautiful lady glanced at me, and I immediately took a respectful step back, sensing the situation. Then I won't disturb the two of you. Blake closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Just as I turned to walk away after 3 steps, he called out, Coco. My back stiffened, and I turned around with feigned alarm, my eyes darting nervously between him and the beautiful woman. For a moment, the entire office was filled with an ambiguous atmosphere that hinted at the boss and secretary having an affair. Blake rubbed his temples in frustration and gestured to me, come here. President. I played along enthusiastically. Unable to bear it any longer, Blake stood up, came over to me, and lightly tapped me on the head. Stop messing around. President, I'm not joking around. The beautiful woman next to him was completely petrified. Blake turned to explain to her, this is my girlfriend. After being stunned for 3 seconds, they swiftly fled the scene. I gazed at the door and sighed silently. Is it really that hard to find a little fun at night? I turned back reluctantly, meeting Blake's teasing gaze. He asked, having fun? I didn't sense the impending danger and kept playing along with his roleplay. If the CEO says it's fun, then it's fun. I'll follow your lead. Blake wrapped his arms around me with a smile, finally showing his true colors. Since you enjoy office play so much, I'll be sure to accompany you to the very end. Blake carried me out of his company. I was utterly drained, as if just rescued after being imprisoned and ravaged. And ravaged I had been. Meanwhile, Blake was thoroughly satisfied, beaming with delight, his mood exceptionally cheerful. When he put me in the passenger seat, he even chuckled lowly in my ear and asked, what should we try next time? Try your ass. I glared at him with reddened eyes and spat, you beast. He gladly accepted the title. The next day, Blake and I went back to my place for dinner, and the whole process was very harmonious. But just as we were leaving, my mom pulled me aside and asked me about the bruises on my knees. I instinctively felt she might have gotten the wrong idea, so I quickly explained, "I fell and scraped them on the ground yesterday." My mom clearly didn't believe me and earnestly reminded me, "A girl needs to protect herself. You can't just let a man have his way." Really, it wasn't like that. Yesterday. My mom wore an expression that said, "I get it, you're embarrassed, I've been there too," then muttered, "Who would have thought Blake was that kind of person?" I never expected my mom to be so open-minded, even talking frankly with me about this kind of thing. The injury on my knee really was from me tripping while walking, but I couldn't say it was entirely unrelated to Blake. After that office escapade, I came home with my leg still weak, then ended up kneeling on the stairs. Making him take the blame wasn't wrong. Who told him to suggest all those role-playing games with me? Even in sweet days, we occasionally argue, but we make up quickly. Blake always says winning against me isn't fun, so if I want to win, he lets me. With a man like this, what more could life ask for? Wait, he's not my husband yet. After dating for over a year, he's never brought up marriage. His parents don't seem in a hurry either. When they see us, they never push. Meanwhile, my parents are anxious and have asked me privately more than once when we plan to get married. I went to ask Blake. He calmly countered, "Are you ready to be a mom? Once you're married, people will start pushing for kids. If you're ready, I'm ready anytime." Of course he's ready anytime, so the seed, and I'd be left to do all the heavy lifting. I really don't want to have kids this early. Blake could tell, which is why he never brought up marriage. "You're still young, no need to rush these things." I rolled my eyes at him. "You're only 3 years older than me, stop acting like there's some huge age gap." Blake raised an eyebrow slightly but didn't say much. It wasn't until later that I learned his parents weren't unconcerned, he'd just quietly shielded me from their pressure. So every time I visited his home, it was always relaxed and pleasant. Given the situation, I took charge of handling my own parents' side. Originally, we'd planned to enjoy at least another year as a couple before starting a family. But just 6 months later, an unexpected twist occurred. A little over half a month ago, both of us got drunk and, in the heat of passion, forgot to take precautions. The following days happened to be hectic for both of us, and by the time we remembered, it was too late for emergency measures. I'd assumed the odds were slim, but as it turned out, Blake was just that capable. Looking at the pregnancy test with 2 lines in my hand, I was stunned. Blake, worried as I had been hiding in the bathroom for too long, knocked on the door. "Coco?" Actually, I was right behind the door, and the moment he finished speaking, I opened it. "What's wrong?" He noticed my unusual expression and immediately grew concerned. "Are you feeling unwell?" I handed him the pregnancy test. He understood with just a glance. "Change your clothes, we're going to the hospital." Still so composed, even when becoming a father, I didn't see a hint of excitement on his face. I was starting to doubt whether he truly considered my feelings or if he simply disliked children himself. Until we stood by the car, and he awkwardly said, "I forgot the car keys." I burst out laughing and playfully hit his arm. "You scared me to death. You didn't react at all, I thought you didn't want this child." Blake quickly hugged me and softly explained, "I didn't handle things well that day. I was afraid you'd be upset." "Then you want children too?" I nodded. "We'll keep it if it happens." The way he panicked and forgot his car keys just now made me even more certain that having a child with him wouldn't be a decision I'd regret. The only regret is that pregnancy would make me gain weight. If we hold a wedding before having a baby, I wouldn't be able to wear a pretty wedding dress. However, I underestimated my future husband's capabilities. He directly accelerated the wedding process with money. Before my belly even started to show, everything was already in place. The wedding dress was custom-made according to my preferences. The grandeur of the ceremony, as both sets of parents wished, was utterly impressive. I was puzzled. "What about you? Don't you have any demands for the wedding?" Blake smiled tenderly. My demand is actually the hardest one. The bride can only be you. There is no second choice. TSK, how come I never noticed before how smooth this guy's sweet talk is? Well then, let's wish us a harmonious marriage for 100 years and early arrival of precious children.